Okay, it's all official now. Craig Lane and Monica and the community dinner crew is live. This is Health Alchemy YouTube channel, Personal Alchemy. Let's see, what else are we calling this? Just general good people. And so we have a couple of things today. Let's see, there's some, we'll just put it over there for a second. Community dinner. Okay. Well, that's not going to work. We'll do that. There we go. There you go. So we're looking at cleanse, immunity, fire, and hydration. And
because it's August 21st, 2020, and Santa Cruz is in hard fire.
Yeah, so it's nice to be laughing and having a good time during some of that. So the main thing to consider is right now we have fire, which generates smoke, and we had all that co-blab worry. I don't even call COVID. I get a time of day. I call it co-blab because that's what it is to me. So with the co-blab worries, you know, and so to me, it's just about so we're taking in and we're letting go. If you look at a simple, we take in and we let go. So we're leading cleanse right now, and that's why it's called Cleanse and Immunity Connection, because I'm on day 14 of a 3-week cleanse. I actually started on the 1st, but I don't call it a cleanse because I'm generally eating that way anyways, which is no flour foods, no alcohol, no caffeine. It's sort of like when you start a cleanse, it's more like what you avoid is cleansing, you know, like get rid of all the stuff you usually do. And I mean, that was what Lent was about. When springtime comes, your winter stores of food are done in the freezing cold Irish, Scottish mountains, you know, and, you know, okay, food's done. It's forced Lent, you know. Today it's like, oh God, I gotta give up my grapes from Chile in January, you know. It's like, ooh. You know, so we're learning once again what it's like to be human and eating what's in season, which is what I've specialized in for 25 years. So we do seasonal cleanse. So in a seasonal cleanse, that means there's organ systems in a circadian rhythm, and they have a dominant time of the year where their frequency is most active. And right now the fire element is active. It should be fairly obvious to everybody the fire element's active. If you're Rumpelstiltskin, you might be, you know, not know, but generally, I've been Rumpelstiltskin a few times. So fire means what I've spent my career studying, well, what are the emotions of fire? And so that's joy and sadness is the fire element emotion. Passion's a subroot of that, yes. But passion can make someone unconscious. And so fire, when you have too much fire, you go unconscious. And I'm a passionate man. I know that when I go too passionate, then I go sleep at the wheel. And I'm dangerous sometimes. That's called mania. That's too much joy. The Chinese call that mania. And then, you know, bipolar is, that's 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a, okay. Yeah. So the point of cleansing is, in my 4 foundation system, is you're cleaning out and transforming your fluid stream in your organs, your tissues, and you're transforming waste, which we're gonna kind of work on avoiding the word waste, and we're gonna recycle some elements that are less desirable in our cells. And it's a little bit much to go into tonight, but we're focusing on, Monica's going to focus on hydration. And so there's this polarity in life of fire and water. And it's well known in Chinese medicine that water controls fire. Every fireman knows that. Water controls fire. Earth thrown on the fire will also control fire. But in the Chinese medical model, it's really water that controls fire in their model conceptually. And so when you're going to nourish and hydrate, then the first thing you need to do is make sure you're not adding more fire to your life. And so like female hot flashes are viewed as yin deficiency in Chinese medicine. And if you look at yin and yang very simply, yin is the log, yang is the fire that consumes the log. It's a very simple way of seeing yin and yang. And so when the Chinese say the Americans are yin deficient and burning the candle at both ends, is because they got no log left. And if you got no log, you got no fire. So yang is motivation. That fire is your motivation, your drive, your passion. But if you got no log to burn, you got no fire. And so that's what you got to do, is replenish the log. And Monica will talk about that a bit. Hydration is the first step in replenishing that log. If you can't hydrate yourself, you're not going anywhere. And first sign, you know, is dry skin. And when it goes further, these are the steps I'm trained in. Level 2 is dry eyes, dry mouth, dry ears, dry throat. Dry sex organs, we'll just say that. And generally any dryness you see, be real careful with dryness, because it's usually stage 2 when it reaches one of the other orifices besides your skin. Generally, it's general. I'm generalizing broadly here, but generally that's the step. And then stage 3 would be out and out, like, okay, I've got an illness, and generally everything's correctable to where before there's in my reading the eye practice, there's a certain thing I'll see in the eye, and I know that there's irreversible damage done. And generally that's there's a 7-stage conceptual model that my sclerology teacher uses, and I like his model because up to stage 6 you can pretty much repair stuff. And then what I've seen too is, if you damage your nerve cells too much with sugar through glycation, then there's a point where you just can't reverse the damage. And that's why I started, after I broke my neck at age 21, 34 years ago, I started changing my habits because I knew that Jolly Ranchers and Cheetos wasn't going to build a healthy body. Because that's what I was eating. I wasn't even eating vegetables. They were not even on my radar, like maybe a carrot here and there, but phew, man, not a good eater. I knew that there was a connection between my mood and my eating, but I was powerless to do anything about it because I was absolutely addicted to caffeine and sugar. So we'd go to I was a surfer at age 21 when I broke my neck. So there were a lot of, the more the tugboat gets going, the harder it is to change course. So I got a client, came to me at age 70, had a bunch of eye problems, and she told me bluntly, I'm not giving up my sourdough bread. And I said, well, then you're only going to make so much progress, because generally people don't on sourdough bread. I'm sorry to say, after 25 years, that's my report. You're eating flour products, you are not going to reach your top of the health. Not now, not ever. Here and there, but not as a staple. So there's 4 levels of food, and I'll get into that in another lecture, but there's everyday staples, there's once or twice a week, there's once or twice a month, and there's nevers. That's the 4 levels right there. 1 minute. And so back to the hot flash, which was the example, that'll lead right into you, is so the first step is my hot flash women are usually doing too many spicy foods. They're drying, so it's going to accentuate hot flashes. Too much caffeine, it's hot initially, it's going to exacerbate hot flashes. Too much fear-based stress in their lives, got to go calm down. And the feminine receives, the masculine gives. And I'm not talking about men and women. I'm talking about the force of masculinity and femininity. So we're being real careful with that gender stuff. But generally, the masculine is the arrow, the feminine is the target. The masculine is the rain, the feminine is the earth that the rain falls upon. So most of the women, in my experience, are missing out on that real receptivity, because they're playing masculine roles because the men are fumbling along blindly for too many generations now. And that's why I do men's work. So now hydration then, your cells have individual personalities. And so how do you feel when you're dehydrated? Not good.
Pain.
So your cells don't feel good when they're dehydrated, and they don't work well. And so do you have a little, is this your only?
No, I got a couple of things, but not.
Okay, eye catcher, so we'll leave this over here for now. Okay.
Sure.
And we're going to introduce Monica over here.
Hi.
Monica McGuire.
Yeah.
You can introduce your credentials and whatnot if you want.
I will. Okay. I'll just hold my little, for the moment, like this.
No.
So thanks. Yeah. I'm here during Santa Cruz County really, really intense fires because we've been working through COVID the last few months, offering as much free health help, health boosting help as possible to everyone that has understood, which we've got a room full of people here who are very conscious of their health and boosting their immunity to make sure that it's safe to be here. And we are doing our best to understand what it is that we need for our community healing, not just because of 6 months of COVID, collab, we might say really, really hardships on too many people dying of loneliness, people having troubles, but also multiple in-depth summer-like subjects about our health, because it's the time to look at cleansing and hydration. So the fire came up just as we were talking about my doing hydration tonight. And one of the passions I have is that our community healing has to happen in greater measure with now the understanding that homes are burning and people are evacuating, and there's greater fear and difficulty among people who believe that they can't be near each other because of the COVID ideas that distancing, hand washing, and masks are like the elite of what you can do to make it through a COVID time. That is not my opinion. And that is not the opinion of thousands of healthcare workers in the world, but right here in Santa Cruz County, because we're one of the health capitals of the world. Pretty much everybody and their grandmother knows how to boost their immune system in Santa Cruz County. And we all have all these ways that we could be sharing. And something just said there is a hold off on the internet, but it looks like that's gone. So we are planning everything we can, having not gotten anywhere, unfortunately, with our local governance, asking them to do it, to bring together health experts and to make sure that the people of Santa Cruz are talking about why we are not plagued, why we have not had an emergency since April. The emergency declared in this county was that we might overrun our hospitals. Instead, our hospitals are going bankrupt. Instead, we've had at most 6 people in the hospital most of the time with anything at all like COVID, and the extremely low incidence has not been tracked in ways that make us comfortable. I know, having been a health coach for 20 years and having made hydration one of my specialties, that a really great, easy immune boosting system is to drink more water, certainly, but to do the 50 other things that we can do to become better hydrated. There are many, many ways that humans are dehydrated. Do you know that 99% of our cells are actually water cells in our body, but by weight, we're maybe 70% or so water when we're born? You look at a baby, that's obvious. And then we slowly dehydrate. And a lot of Americans slowly dehydrate to death. And we get in tremendous pain, tremendous problems of many, many sorts, besides the obvious liver function. All our organs will not function well. Our brain is about 98% water. When we have trouble thinking, we're usually dehydrated. If we have trouble with all kinds of exacerbated symptoms that lead to illness, but we know we have had those symptoms of discomfort a long time, they're almost always going to be better if we will find the way to get hydrated. So I did that when I was about 41, because I'd been drinking about 6 quarts of water a day. I'm a very healthy 58-year-old. I am very interested in finding ways to stay healthy because I don't like discomfort and I really can't handle pain. And I'm not alone, but I absolutely became a health coach because my childhood with way big problems, from lots of issues of the normal American problems, not so good eating, a lot of stress, way too many toxins. Oh my God, my 19-year-old son and most kids born today are dealing with so many more toxins. It's horrendous. And what we can do is we can wash those away. We can have so much greater ease in so many ways in our lives if we will look at the true in-depth subject of becoming hydrated, which most people say, well, isn't that just drinking more water? No, it's not. I was drinking up to 6 quarts of water a day, knowing that that was what I was told should make the difference. If you drink enough water long enough, then your body will hydrate. Not true. So what I did was a very long story that I'm not going to go in here in a short talk, but I have developed about 50 different ways that I let people choose from to figure out what's the easy, quick way to get rid of more pain and have a much easier time actually heal from their illnesses, etc., far more easily by adding hydration as one of their immune boosting skills. And there's 50 ways or so to choose from, so it's really easier than you imagine. But unless it's in a context with a lot of accountability and ability to ask questions and get answers on an ongoing basis, most of us will fall back to normal habits of living and not get rehydrated. I did, and it was super exciting how everything worked with that. And my story is very, very long and involved, but I will look forward to the hope that I can share it with you. And Craig and I are going to continue to offer parts of everything that we both do, so long as COVID continues and longer, so that we do what we need to absolutely heal from the horrendous problems that this COVID time has caused. We are now facing unbelievable societal changes, and we are the people that can help. We are the ones that can do something. So there are people all around who are volunteering and helping, and Craig and I are going to stay on this along with multiple others who are building their capabilities and joining this group of health professionals of all sorts beyond the one complementary system of Western allopathic medical care. The hundreds of other forms of complementary care really have a lot to offer, and we want to make sure that that gets offered more as soon as possible. So that's why we're here. So I asked you to please get your water that you could take as part of the quick presentation here. How are we doing on time? One of the keys, obviously, is...
You're at 6 minutes.
Thank you. One of the keys is drinking water. There is no doubt that drinking water is a great way, but who else knows what the second most common way that water gets into our bodies besides drinking?
Cleaning ourselves.
Because?
Taking baths.
Yes, water on our skin. Our skin is drinking all the time. That's why we never, ever want to put anything on our skin that we wouldn't eat.
Oh.
Ever. My number one way that I put anything on my body is food. I am really funny looking when I make avocado anything because I rub it on my skin. The inside of the avocado skin is filled with the most amazing nutrients. Look it up. I won't list them here, but you can look really funny and fun and get right to that kid size of yourself while really helping your skin. And it feels great afterward. You can do it in your hair. You can do it all over. There's so many different great food oils. My ancestors come from olive growing countries. So I figured out, because I'm just one of those people like Craig, we're absolute health geeks, that there's a lot you can do by figuring out what kinds of foods grew where your ancestors were living. And olive growing countries are why we have olive skin. I had to make that up in order to figure that out.
Wow.
And I did. I made it up and then asked enough people, and olive skin is when your ancestors grew up. Now, if your ancestors didn't grow up with olive trees, then olive oil is not going to do as much for you. But if they did, it has a natural SPF of 10 to 15. I haven't worn regular sunscreen since I was about 20, and I don't burn. Now, that's a lot of things, and hydration is one of them. So back to, I asked you to bring water. First and foremost, to each of us, to our health and healing on August 21st, 2020, and for all the time coming, because we are in one heck of a time period in human history. So bless your water with every sip, and I'm asking that you take sips throughout this little talk, where we are also raining love into our own bodies with every sip and all over Santa Cruz. Go home and do a water rain dance as well, because we need it. But we can, throughout this talk, be raining love on each other, raining with all our hearts. And that does create something in all of the people that we know, because we are all that connected. Sips.
Cheers.
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 Thank you.
Another totally fun bit that I've been getting Craig with, most people don't know, but when you are toasting, and it's a great idea to clink glasses with people, not in the oldest fashioned way. Somebody look that up and tell me how funny you think that is. But the new fashioned way is when you look at somebody and you're going to toast, you look them dead in the eye while you toast, or you're going to have 7 years of bad sex.
That's too many years.
That's too many years. And in fact, every time you clink
7
looking
minutes.
somebody in the eyes, it's not that that's the person that you're going to have some sex with. What? Say 7 minutes was too long? It's not that you're turning the person into your lover, but hey, go for it. It's that you're saying, I want you to have all the joys and hydrating effects that a good orgasm can bring, and all of the health for yourself. You want to really look at the wide range of things that have to do with waterworks in your body. Fun, huh? So we can have a lot of fun with this topic, and we are going to. We will be covering this in future circles, and we will keep going with it. And my 3-part course is something you might want to do as well. Anybody that gets together a group, I will gladly work with their group to do this, and we have a load of fun. But what I want to keep going with now is my favorite second topic to bring up is that, okay, there are these 50 ways to drink and get our hydration different from what most people think. So I highlighted a few special ones today. Yes, 50 ways. 50 ways to get hydrated. You totally got it. I have actually written all kinds of lyrics for it. No time to do it tonight, but let's do it. Work it together, Terry.
3 to 6. Okay, we got
50
2 to
ways
1
to get hydrated.
Doing pretty good.
50 ways.
That's 2 to 1 at least. It's not 75 to 1.
Yeah.
The female to male ratio.
Yeah. Okay, so again, the list is really fun. I already spilled one great one, Orgasm. And we'll want to remember, we don't just need to tell our teenagers that masturbation is healthy. We want to tell all our adult friends. It's really, really important and healthy. And it is an amazingly true way to actually get more hydrated. It's so
It's
fun.
free.
It's
It's free. It's like free money.
Yeah, yeah. And as soon
Why not use it?
as soon as we figured out how to please ourselves better, it really does open us up to better relationships, because we radiate out that we know something about ourselves that will make somebody else really happy. So that's a fun one. A really basic, important one during this fire time. My grandfather was a fireman, a fire chief. So I've asked questions growing up in California my whole life. Why don't we have sprinklers on the top of every house? Why don't we have a norm that when there's a fire season and fire danger, that we stop taking showers and baths, and we go outside and we have water fights, and we make sure that we get in the house wet? Because everybody can put on a bathing suit all summer long and go outside and point that really high stream jet up on the house, and on, while you're cleaning out the excess stuff that could burn and whatever else, wet it down as many times as possible. Don't throw that water down the drain. Throw it onto your house. You'll get plenty wet by putting that hose in the air, and you will laugh and you will have fun, and you will also be watering your plants. If anybody says, oh, that's not safe, as some firemen have through my life, as I've offered this and said, could we just educate people about this? They've said, no, because then it could use up all the water. Well, not if you're doing it instead of taking a shower or a bath, you wouldn't. And leave the dishes. If there's burning anywhere within a 10-mile radius, don't wash the dishes. Wash yourself and friends outside, and get the house wet. That is one of the #1 things. So that's another beautiful thing about community healing right now. Please pass that message as much as possible right now, because we have too many people who are evacuating and not remembering that they have a little longer to wet down the house one more time, to do as one of the people who's lost his home is here with us tonight, and he's suggesting that everybody who's evacuating, please remember to really do pack your car. Take a lot of stuff with you, even if it really doesn't look like it's going to come near you. It did finish his house. So just prayers. Oh, and right there, this is my list of all the people that I love. I'm not going to let it be read. I made a list immediately of all the people I know who live in Santa Cruz Mountains. And I started raining love down on those people every moment, every day, rereading my list. It's one of the times I don't light a candle for people when I'm loving them, if it's fire season. Instead, I keep my water handy. Time to toast again, people. Keep my water handy. And I take sips to water myself and to water each one of them. Love it, Megan. Thanks for repeating. Essentially, every morning, I drink 1 to 2 quarts of water before I eat anything. This is actually the #1 recommendation, that we stop trying to drink water throughout the day, unless we have already started with drinking truly as much as your body needs and wants before eating anything. Breaking your fast can be at any hour of the day. You do not need to do this forever. I suggest a hydration cleanse where you spend a good amount of time making sure that you have really focused on this for as long as is needed. And it doesn't have to be 7 days a week, but it's really good if it's at least 5 days a week, that you do your best to set at least 2 hours before you eat, and leave at least three of the days each week where you let your body tell you when you're done with water. So this is a really key big one, and I'm just going to give a little more about it, but we'll go into greater detail in other circles. Your body very often believes that it's hungry when it's actually thirsty. So the way you find out whether your body is hungry or thirsty is drink some water. If having about 4 ounces of water gives you some sense of satisfaction, satiation, then you are actually thirsty. And if your body feels uncomfortable, then there's a whole litany of things that you have to look at. But one of them could be when I've already had 1 to 2 quarts of water and my body gets that feeling. I've been doing this for 17 years. I'm very clear. I know exactly when it's time to eat. I then take that last sip and I let 10 minutes pass, as much of the time as possible, before I eat. Otherwise, if I've gone through a couple of quarts, I wait and see, Is it really time to have more water? I'll wait and feel it out little sip by little sip and leave as much as half an hour most days before I actually break my fast with food, because you want that water to have access to everything in your body with nothing else to digest. And that is truly a long subject, but that's the key. That really helps a lot of people. If you took nothing else but that and never called or checked in with us ever again, you could get hydrated with that one fact if you geeked out on it. So, sips again, to your health, to your hydration, and to all the people scared tonight about fire in Santa Cruz County and all of California. Love raining down on all. So there is so much more. I didn't wind up looking at my list again for more. 17 minutes. I would say the most key other things that I really want to say right now are that the group work that we're called upon to do is so interesting about hydration and fires in this season, because human beings are water's way of walking around to meet itself. As I said, we are substantially water. Aptos, where I lived for 10 years, the name Aptos, the Ohlone word, means the place of the two waters meeting. I loved that I got to use that in all my water talks. Because if we can live in the place where we really see each other as water and remind each other that, hey, you're hurting, please drink some water. You're hurting, you're sick, you're not feeling well for whatever reason, you have a headache. Oh my God, so many headaches are dehydration. If we can just actually see each other as water, that again will make a huge difference in our ability to speak to each other during a fire season as scary as this one in a way that brings more comfort, that brings more solution immediately when someone is scared. It's not just breathe deep time, although breathing includes water vapor, as we know, and why people are pushing masks. It is also that breathing is just one of the key aspects of being human, and drinking water is a very calming exercise when we have all the frightening things going on and we're talking and scared and whatnot. Very often you'll notice, you know the sound of when somebody's voice needs water. There is a particular sound. If you haven't figured it out yet, we'll talk about that later too. There are all kinds of clues.
You know, with a pot smoker, you'll get the sound.
Oh yeah. Think about pot smokers. And
Cotton.
and so this message of community is that water's way of walking around to meet itself can actually meet in pools. We are pools in this group here. We are pools with you on the other end of this camera. We are pools of human safety for each other. Pools of love in each other's eyes when we look in each other's eyes. Thinking about clouds and water is a way to get rehydrated. Anything to do with nature always is, but nature is very wet. Even in the Mojave Desert, there is enough water in the air that you can dehydrate water into a container. It's amazing. This is a water planet. So making sure that you keep a focus on what is water in each of us and in our interactions safely at this point. Clearly, you want to make sure that you're around somebody that wants to exchange water vapor with you. But if you're around somebody who's upset and angry and they're talking to you, those water droplets on you are a long time not good, not a part of what you want in your life. I strongly feel there's a lot more to talk about about what COVID is and is doing and what we can do about it. And I hope we'll get to that topic in future circles with all of you. But for now, just know that we will get back to times in our lives where we can and need to be talking close range with each other, all the most loving words we can, including when you speak to yourself. Know that if you're not saying kind things, your worst kind of water is going back into your body. And then you make sure you think about, and when you cuss, when you get angry, when you just spew anything, you think about Mother Earth taking it and composting it for you, because that's what she does. But if you think about it, all the more it will happen. So once more, to your health, to the many things that we could all talk about, and to the reminder continually that you are going to toast everybody possible to add to your hydration, health, good sex, and all of it. as we
And
need
horny
to
goat
have.
meat.
Yes. So love to you. Now, anybody write down any questions while they were listening
Wait,
to
wait,
any of that?
We gotta,
Yeah,
Craig can do a little.
Craig's going to do something first, then we'll get back to
do
Q&A.
questions. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving over to Craig, and I had a couple of things just to add on. Though, to preface, I haven't done the work with hydration monicas, and not specifically. I used to lecture for the Bikram studio here locally, and we had maybe like a year where Sally and Amy and I were, working on how do we hydrate these Bikram people really well. So
they need it the most.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
I got a couple insights while you were talking, Monica. I guess we don't need.
Of course.
I'm gonna go toxify you guys. I have a little chip on it, so it's not too toxic. Let's see. I guess that's almost the whole thing there. All right. So we have in hydration, water is H2O. Everybody kind of knows that. So if you look at the bottom of this, there's an acronym, CHOSN. One chemistry teacher calls it the chosen ones. And most of the universe that we know as solid matter is composed of those 5 elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, and nitrogen. Most of the known universe, that's the Lego building blocks that most of the known universe is made out of. All your proteins, all your fats, all your carbohydrates are made of those 5 elements, plus a few trace elements here and there. So it's important to realize that, because water is 2 of those elements, right? H and O right here. So what happens though when you put a bunch of smoke in the air? Well, smoke's mostly composed of carbon. And carbon is an acid forming element. It forms carbonic acid with water. So when there's smoke in the air, you're going to need more alkalinity. And so when you combine water with carbon in the air, you get acid. Just like carbonated water is also more acidic if they have to falsely carbonate it than naturally carbonated water. It's important to understand that. You might get this great Perrier mineral source, but then they go freaking carbonate it falsely and just ruins your whole pH. And that's not talked about a lot. And that's why people, generally come is for these insights of like, okay, we got an acid. So that means we have a blood, lymph, acid, base issue. And so we want to make sure that's why Craig's drinking this. It's very alkaline green drink. But to be honest, to all of you know this, acid base it's a teeter-totter. You can go too alkaline, you can go too acidic. But we're not talking about the blood. The blood only varies from 7.35, 7.45. It's always slightly alkaline under all conditions. You cannot say the cancer exists in an acid blood environment, because that's incorrect. Incorrect. Now, does your stomach like to be alkaline? No, the stomach likes to be acidic. Does your colon like to be alkaline? No, it likes to be slightly acidic, 6.5. So where are we talking about alkalinity? Small intestine, blood, and your plasma stream. So when you have more carbon introduced, you're also going to have more waste stream in your cells. So you notice here on the whiteboard, your cell and waste stream is included. So if you have a bowl of water and you start throwing particles in it, what happens to the water? Does it thicken or thin out? It thickens up, which means these fine capillary beds out here aren't getting nourished because the fluid's too thick to get out there. So your eyes suffer, your kidneys suffer, your toes suffer, your feet suffers, your skin suffers, the fine hairs in your body suffer. If it gets really bad, then your genitalia will suffer, which, most people don't want to have that happen either. So, so it's one of the first signs to me is, when I see dry skin, it's like, okay, we're in stage 1 here, like I talked about earlier. And so I start working on the waste stream. And so I have another slide I'm going to put up in a second. I'm going to work through this quickly. But when you're looking at immunity with the smoke in the air, especially because we not only have we have a sort of a lying government problem, but that's, it's bigger than COVID. That's why I tell people, like, we got bigger government problem than we do a COVID problem. And so your lung cilia, which are hairs, like here's hairs on my skin. You have plants with hairs. So the number 1 herb for the West Coast under fire right now is mullein, M-U-L-L-E-I-N, mullein. Very hairy plant. It's not hot heating, it's not cooling, it's slightly astringent, so it holds in moisture. You talk about hydration, I could talk to you 50 hydration herbs right now, various types. But so you definitely want something for lung cilia. Other plants with hairs work too. Comfrey is nourishing to the yin, comfrey leaf. Colt's foot, you'll probably come up with that. Oregano's a little bit hairy. Well, I guess there's hairy and bald oregano, so,
Comfrey and borage.
borage would be very helpful for sure. Yeah, thanks, good one. because borage is slimy. Malva, marshmallow root. We call it malva because the species of marshmallows, there's not a lot of marshmallows, actual marshmallow plant grows around here. It's more the species of marshmallow called malva, M-A-L-V-A.
Oh,
And they're slimy though. The leaves, the flowers, the roots, all slimy. If you chew on it. Mucilage, right. And that's yin. That's replenishing the log. And then finally, the last herb, so we got through all this, chosen ones. Okay, now they go to the other one. So we won't get into this next whiteboard just yet. So if you're putting together a series of herbs for the smoke and the West Coast and the COVID, then you want a diaphoretic, which is a mild spice. And see, there's the action of a diaphoretic right here. The energy is going outwards, letting go. So what is your diaphoretics? Think in the common food world, anything that has a mild spice. Ginger, peppermint, radishes. The two best are probably radishes and beets. Beets work more through the bile stream and radishes work more through the lymph stream. But they're both a little bit, beets are a little pungent, but radish is really the one. And you've got daikon radishes and turnips and red radishes and watermelon radishes and black Spanish radishes and any other radishes I forgot. There's a lot of radishes out there. There's a lot of radishes out there. And in a pinch, if all you got's a turnip, then that'll work. Raw onion's another one. Raw, not cooked, because the sulfur evaporates when you cook onions. Just like cabbage when it's raw, also good. Cabbage cooked, not so good. Keep your questions, onions. Chives, onions, and then in the herbal kingdom, one of the single best diaphoretic herbs, two or three. If you want to calm someone down, you give them catnip. Very sedating and loopy kind of herb. Then there's holy basil, which I can't speak enough good about. That's also working with the endocrine and nervous systems, with calming down everything. And then finally, elderflower. And there's a reason why the elderflower is called the elder tree. Hint, hint. It's a very powerful tree. And it actually, in permaculture, is used because the tree roots down in the soil tell the soil and the plants which resources go to which plant, which is nearby. That in wormwood, that's what they're talking about in permaculture. They're like the king that says the key resources go to this guy over here, he's suffering. And this plant over here is suffering. And this guy over here is doing okay, so we'll take some resources from him and then nicely move them over here. So the elder tree, it's called that for a reason. It's the elder tree, top of the, the king. And the trees, besides probably the redwood or others, but elders can grow pretty big. So elderflower, you don't want bare elderberry in an active infection. Do not use it in an active infection. It's causing astringency to the pores. You want to open your pores up with the flower spice energy. You take the elderberry between illnesses. That's the secret. You don't want to have something sour when you're sick. I know because I've done it. I've done schisandra berry when I'm sick, and it just gets me sicker because it's astringent. It tells all your pores to close. All the poison stays in. The old wise women used to know that. You wrap somebody up in a bunch of blankets and you feed them a boiling hot tea of these diaphoretic herbs, and they sweat out all the poisons because the pores open up. You see the vector here. The action is opening. The bacterium of berry is closing. It's over here, see? Taking in and letting go. You guys will get the recording later, but yeah, this is the action of astringency. This is what sour does. That's what sour does. Spicy does. Spicy does. It's outward.
You should do it on there.
Spicy. Okay, I guess I'll do the funny face.
Yes.
Spicy is this. Puckering. And then spicy is outward.
Sour was the first one. Then spicy was
Sour is or astringency. Astringency is sour is one form of astringency. That's how they see it in Ayurveda. They're both kind of collapsing, and it's definitely a laugh out loud moment. Thanks, Monica, for having me be dorky.
Yeah.
Okay, back
You're
to
welcome.
go back.
Hey, you did it. I just wanted you to get credit.
Okay, so there's back over here to this guy taking it. So the other way we help ourselves, and this is going on way too long for questions, but okay, is your colon has a relationship with your lung. And you might ask yourself, what do they have in common without looking at the cheat sheet? What are the common actions of the colon and the lung?
They express things that our body doesn't need anymore.
They have little cilia inside of them, both of them.
They do. That's good. That's good. I didn't know that one. So the simplest answer is where we take in and let go. The colon takes in what? Water and nutrients. There's bacterial poop. We can add that on there. Bacterial and microbial poop is a part of the stream that goes in, not the waste stream that goes back inside. And then what are your lungs taking? Oxygen. See, our waste product is CO2, which plants want. Their waste product is oxygen, which we want. So we get an infinity loop with plants. Our blood and their blood is identical except for one molecule. And that's a whole long lecture about that. Chlorophyll and human blood are identical, folks.
Wow. So interesting.
Just one has iron at the center and one has magnesium at the center. That's right. So if you want a good form of magnesium, eat your raw greens. That's going to nourish your red blood cell magnesium, which is a separate test than your blood, your serum iron, your serum magnesium. It's a really powerful test. A colleague of mine's doing them. Your red blood cell zinc, your red blood cell magnesium, your red blood cell copper. An important test. They're just more expensive and the doctors are all, we'll just say, mal-educated about it. I'll be soft today. So the B word. Let's see, what else? Common action. So, and then we're letting go of water. The colon lets go of fluid. We let go of dead cells. And we let go of dead and live microbes. A full fourth to a third of our poop is dead and live microbes and gut cells. Yummy.
To dogs.
To dogs is pretty yummy, yeah. So a fourth to a third of your stool is dead cells from your gut that are getting sloughed off, in the stream coming along, and just like scabs kind of, and then dead and live microbes. And yes, folks, there are viruses that are normally in our body, good ones and bad ones. Yes, folks, there are all kinds of funguses. You can't even believe the kind of funguses living in your body, good and bad. And yes, there's all kinds of bacterias and little shape-shifting worms and little bugs you can't see and flukes and just stuff that I've seen come out of me that I wouldn't want a living soul to even see, but I have photographs of them, Like space egg alien came out of me. It was like, what was that? Am I gonna die? I guess, no, I'm still here. It's all out.
It can't hatch in you now.
Yeah, like anybody see Alien,
Yeah, exactly.
Ah! Alien. So you can nourish your lungs right now by making sure your colon's moving. Brand new client this week, last week, I almost just want to cry. Years and years of suffering, and I think she's like 30 now. Horrible skin problems. And then another one, a 15-year-old teenager. They barely have a bowel movement once a week. And that's okay with everybody else.
Whoa.
Yeah, right. The other doctors don't even
So they're the first ones in line for lung trouble. Why? Because their colon's all clogged up. See, there's a relationship here in Chinese medicine. If you see your acupuncturist and you got a lung problem, they might give you a large intestine point, like right here. Or one right here. On the large intestine meridian, they might treat your large intestine meridian for a lung problem and vice versa. And it works. And that's what I've spent 25 years studying, and who's getting results and why. So yeah, I'm telling you, there's no double-blind study here, but I'm telling you after 25 years and tens of thousands of clients later, it works. You don't need a double-blind for this one. You need empiricism. So colon nourishes the lung. And also, when you're stuck emotionally, you're just waiting for a cold. Because that's what the lungs do, is they express grief. And what is grief? It's stuck, constipated emotions. You're emotionally and mentally constipated, when you're in grief. Because that's why Jesus said you're already forgiven. It's the same pointer. The grief you're seeking has already happened. It's already and always happening. But we have all these layers of unenlightenment that we got to deal with, called humanity, Welcome to the duality show.
in society.
And then there's all the Jungian soup of just, the Jungian human soup right now is a big stewing pot of spicy, bad stuff. With love underneath, however. That's the I got the male thing going on here. Like, you're all, flowery language. I'm like, yeah, you got the sword. And, yeah, kill. Okay, I think that's think that's enough of that. Okay, we'll move on to Q&A now. Let's do some nice. Let's go back to the immunity and the foundations for this one right here.
Yeah.
This is a
good idea.
generally kind of good one to have in the
Because
background.
this video is linking up with the rest of the videos that we've been doing the last month or so on community nights, and we're talking about immunity foundations because it's cleansing month.
And on that note, I'm actually going to stop and start the recording. So we're going to have a part 2 with the Q&A. So